Did you know that 50 black couples who have a minimum earning of $250,000 got together and decided that they were going to build their own community? So they purchased land in Indian Head, Maryland, and they got together and they started building. Only for 5 people, one of whom is a firefighter in Indian Head, Maryland, to come in there and burn down every last one of those houses. This happened in 2005 in Maryland. They called it one of the worst arsons in the state of Maryland. And the firefighter, when caught, admitted that yes, they did it because they didn't want a bunch of fucking blacks moving in there. They did that, and they admitted this. This was in 2005. Okay. Hello, friends. How y'all doing?
You can buy me a watch.
Do you want me to buy you a watch? What do I do?
Watch. What is?
Look, he has a watch.
But I don't have none.
But you have glasses. Oh, sorry. I gotta finish this. Yeah. So the people who made everything about race are the same people that come up every day as say, why do you like to make everything about race? Because with you guys, everything is about that. Everything is about it. And you just like to gaslight people. But yeah, as far as I know, the most recent attempt for black people to build a self-sustaining community was in 2005, and 5 white people, including a firefighter, went in there and burnt down over 30 homes. And for some reason, I believe after I don't know if it was abandoned or not, but look it up. Maybe they continued. I don't know, but I do know that was the last attempt.
Start a functioning black community. Like we would leave you to it. We would be, oh my.
Portsmouth, Ohio, Leandit, Michigan, Pollock, Louisiana, Salina, Tennessee, Comanche County, Texas, Paragould, Arkansas, Lexington, Oklahoma, Blackwell, Oklahoma, Monette, Missouri, Linton, Indiana, Elwood, Indiana, Wilmington, North Carolina. Not just a racial expulsion, not just a massacre, but also the only coup d'etat recorded in U.S. history. Pana, Illinois, Carterville, Illinois, Mena, Arkansas, Pierce City, Missouri, Decatur, Indiana, Joplin, Missouri, Sour Lake, Texas, Harrison, Missouri, Cotter, Arkansas, Marshall County, Kentucky, Anna and Jonesboro, Illinois, Forsyth County, Georgia. This is the foundation of Lake Lanier. East St. Louis, Illinois, Irwin, Tennessee, Corbin, Kentucky, Ocoee, Florida, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood, aka Black Wall Street, a thriving black neighborhood, destroyed. Bombs were dropped. Hundreds of people murdered. Thousands of families left homeless. Jay, Florida, Rosewood, Florida, also destroyed because black people were doing better than white people. Blandford, Indiana, Manhattan Beach, California, Vienna, Illinois, Sheridan, Arkansas. This is just a list I found with a quick fucking Google, and it's not complete, and I know that because this is what I do. I research white violence in the United States. Because as a white person in the United States, I know that everything you just said is a fucking lie. You gotta pick up a book, my friend. You have to pick up a book before you record things. And I'm going to put some in the caption for you to do a little bit of homework, right? Because white Americans have never allowed black Americans to live in peace a day in their fucking lives. A day in their lives. Oh, and by the way, that list doesn't mention any of the neighborhoods flattened and destroyed by the summer of 1919. That list doesn't mention a single neighborhood taken by eminent domain by the U.S. government. That goddamn near exclusively hits black American families and other very, very, very poor communities, but it is very much focused on black American families.
Shalom. Back again with another lesson. And before I begin this lesson, I'd like to begin by giving all honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha Kwadash. I want to give double honors to my elders and apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone who rule well, who I've learned this truth from. I want to say peace and salutations also to you, Archeum, meaning you brothers out there laboring, pushing this word out in our truth and in sincerity, presenting your bodies as a living sacrifice, which is your reasonable service. I will say shalom to you, Akwaf, meaning you Israelite sisters out there that may be listening. And I also want to say shalom to you, Israelites that are scattered across the four corners of the earth, You may look like these other nations, but your seed line goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which is the chosen seed line. Shalom. So as you can just see from the videos that I just played, you had the first video where the brother was explaining that there were a group of black people, so-called black people, that got together, got their money together, bought some land, and started to build a small community on that land that they purchased. Now, the same fire chief or firefighter from that said town came together with a group of hateful Edomite and decided that it was a good idea to burn that village down. And the reason being, the reason that he gave, was because he didn't want so-called black people living in his area, right? Now, this is the hatred that these Edomites have shown us since since we were released from slavery, right? Now, the scriptures do say, rise up and depart, for this is not your rest, roughly paraphrasing. But the second video, right, you had an Edomite get on camera and say, if black people just build their own, like build their own towns and built their own villages or whatever the case may be, we would just leave them alone and let them get on with it. Now, what's so ironic about the whole thing is that the woman, cut into the video and then started reading out all the towns that black people, so-called black people, tried to build, and these Edomites are burned to the ground or destroyed, right? And she made the statement that the reason that they destroyed these towns is because so-called white people were losing, right? They were losing the fact that we were winning and doing better than they were. Now, during slavery, they had a 400-year head start. And then after slavery, we caught up to them so quick because we're the chosen people. You see? Now, the woman's going into it, and obviously she mentioned that there's probably more that she can research and sort of bring to the forefront. However, you don't see that in this video. But I'm going to quickly do a lesson on this because obviously it sprang to mind, after I saw those two clips. And I wanted to title this lesson that Esau will be judged, right? For all of the atrocities and all the things that Esau has done in this life, he's going to be judged for, right? So we'll start in the book of Micah, chapter 2 and verse 1 from the top. So it reads, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. So woe means destruction, or it means judgment and calamity to those that deliberately plan wickedness in their beds, right? And then when they wake up in the morning, early in the morning, that's when they practice the things that they've concocted in their minds. In the scripture specifically, it's talking about the ancient Israelites, the ancient Israelite leaders, that were doing wickedness and doing these wicked things. But you can equate it to modern times, the modern day, or being under the ruling class, like the elites, so like the Edomites, right, who create these unjust laws and these policies to oppress or exploit the poor, which is definitely what they're known for, right? Everybody talks about the things that these people do, the laws that they make, the laws that they pass, the rules that they make, everything. But it ends up oppressing the people and then making the rich richer, right? So this is what they do. This is a wicked thing that they do, right? So verse 2, it says, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. So when it says that they covet fields, when it means to covet, it means to desire. They desire the lands, they desire the property, they desire these things. And we can see, you have this thing in New York City where they do this thing called deed theft. And they, do these little policies and these little underhanded tricks to basically go into a property and get it for pennies on the dollar, right? These expensive properties. So this is something that they do, right? It says that they covet fields and houses that belong to someone else, and they use their wealth, their influence, their governmental powers, or by violence. They send the boys around, They intimidate. They do all these things to repossess the land or the houses, the properties, all these things that they do, right? So they basically do these things and you have entire families that suffer from these things that they practice, right? So that's why, that's another reason why these Edomites have to face their judgment, which they will, right? So I'm going to jump over to the book of Amos, chapter 1, verse 11, and it reads, "Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever." So this is talking about Esau Edom, right? And his animosity, the animosity that he had between the children of Israel. So he always had that back and forth, that back and forth um, animosity between the Israelites, right? So as soon as he had the opportunity, or as soon as the opportunity presented itself, these Edomites took the advantage. So like when the time of Babylon, when they started, coming up against the Israelites, the southern kingdom, Esau was there helping them. Esau was cheering them on. Esau was, getting involved with the, takedown of the Israelites, the southern kingdom, right? This is what they did. Verse 12, it says, "But I will send a fire upon Teman, which shall devour the palaces of Bozrah," right? So all the regions of Esau Edom are going to receive that judgment. Now, to get further scriptures, and when we go into the book of Lamentations, the precept here, this is Lamentations chapter 4, and I'm going to read verse 21. It says, "Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken, and shalt make thyself naked." So in other words, the scriptures here is basically saying, to these Edomites, rejoice, go ahead and rejoice, because you helped the Babylonians, right? You helped the Babylonians to take us down, right? You helped the Babylonians to do all these things to see our downfall. But guess what? The cup is going to be passed on to thee. It's going to be passed on to them. So they'll be naked, left bare, the same way, but they're going to be worse. Eventually, it's going to come back on their own shoulders, You reap what you sow. Verse 22, it says, "The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins," right? So our punishment, has not been accomplished yet, because obviously we're still in captivity. So in Babylon, released, then obviously continue on with history. The Israelites went back into captivity again. So our iniquity has not been accomplished yet. So when these Edomites go down, that's when our iniquity shall be accomplished, right? And it says, "He will no more carry thee away into captivity." So this is the last captivity. Once these Edomites fall, that's it. The Israelites are going to be in the kingdom. But it says, "He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins." So the Lord's going to expose, well, the Lord has been exposing these Edomites. Because again, that woman reading off that list of all the towns that these Edomites burned down, that's exposing him. That's showing all his, that's discovering his sins. So these Edomites got a lot to answer for. See? So I'm going to bring out one last scripture and I'll close it out there. I'm going to read in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 49. And you see how in the book of Jeremiah it talks about, prophecy against Ammon. And as you read down, it says prophecy against Edom. This is what we're going to go into now, the prophecy against the nation of Esau Edom. We're going to read in the 14th verse. So this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 49, verse 14. So it says, I've heard a rumor from the Lord Yahweh, and an ambassador, which an ambassador is a messenger. It says, an ambassador is sent unto the heathen, saying, gather ye together and come against her. The her that is referring to there is the nation of Esau Edom. It says, and rise up to the battle, right? So you're rising up to the battle. So this is a rumor, prophetic message or decree from the Lord that is coming against Edom. And this is working on the minds of these other nations. It's in their mind that eventually that, they're all going to turn against America. And this is the battle of Armageddon, or Armageddon, right? The Valley of Decision down in the so-called Middle East. And they're all going to turn on America and then start striking America with them ICBM nuclear missiles, and America's going to fall, right? As we keep reading in verse 15, it says, for lo, I will make thee small among the heathen and despised among men. Now these Edomites are greatly despised by the nations. All these nations are seeing Edomite's track record, right? So verse 15, it says, for lo, I will make thee small among the heathen and despised among men. So these Edomites are despised by the nations, right? And the reason they're despised is due to their track record. These nations understand exactly who these Edomites are. They see how they go into these other countries, such as Venezuela. They, attack them by force and then, steal their resources. America stole all the oil from Venezuela. You see? So these other nations are watching how America's acting and they're condemning it, but they're keeping note, like, okay, so these Americans or these Babylonians are that type. So, it wouldn't be past them to come up against us. See? They're learning by America's track record. So as we continue to read in verse 16, it says, thy terribleness hath deceived thee, and the pride of thine heart, O thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, that holdeth the height of the hill, though thou shouldest make thy nest as high as the eagle, I will bring thee down from thence, saith the Lord Yahweh. So all the terror that they have caused in the earth, and because of their pride has deceived them, these cave dwellers whose habitation is up high, today we would refer to these as skyscrapers, because they live in these tall buildings. They live in the best places on earth. They like to exalt themselves as the eagle, that towering bird of prey. That's what they like to compare themselves to. But regardless of that, it says that the Lord will still bring them down, right? And you can read that account as well, also in the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 3 and verse 4, right? So this is showing you that the Lord's going to bring these Edomites down. All these other nations are going to turn on these Edomites, right? So when we read in verse 17, it says, also Edom shall be a desolation. Everyone that goeth by it shall be astonished, and shall hiss at all the plagues thereof. So, these Edomites will be taken out of their high rulership position and brought low to the ground, right? They're going to be brought to a low state, and people are going to, huff and puff at them, you know what I mean? Hiss at them. And be like, look at these people, man. These people used to conquer the whole world. Now look at them. Absolute shambles. See? It says, verse 18, as in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, and the neighbor cities thereof, saith the Lord Yahweh, no man shall abide there, neither shall a son of man dwell in it, right? So once America falls and it's nuked, it's going to turn into a desert wasteland. So the only thing that's going to be able to live there is the desert creatures, right? So where it says that no man shall abide there, neither shall a son of man dwell in it, it means no matter what, anybody that tries to set up camp there, they're not going to be able to survive there. It's going to be a barren wasteland. We're not going to have any food. There's going to be no water places there except for the animals. You ain't going to be able to establish a community or a kingdom in that place. The place, America, is getting ready to be destroyed completely. That's why it says, as in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, right? So America is going to be completely destroyed. The judgment of these Edomites will be likened to the judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah, and they will be destroyed with fire and brimstone for the wickedness and the perversions that they've committed in this land since they've been in power. You see? So I'm going to leave it there. These Edomites are going to receive their judgment. I pray that this lesson has been edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. I want to give double honors to my elders and apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone who rule well, who I've learned this truth from. I want to say peace and salutations to you hopeful elect. It's on to the next lesson, Lord willing. Shalom.